Well, the first hiccup of the day is that there are two cruise ships and 870,000 buses, I guess. So the parking lot is a disaster. And we asked if we could get off the bus so that we could just walk 100 feet to get in. So that's what we're doing. But holy crap, it's so busy. It's so busy. Like insane.
Valerie Kyle Travel Channel.
Welcome to Valerie Kyle Travel Channel. Panama Canal. That was our entire reason for booking this cruise. This 2-week cruise was to go through the Panama Canal, at least one of the locks. Some minor hiccups in not actually going through any of the locks. I will link a video here about the advertising and what kind of maybe misled us into booking this cruise as opposed to something else. I will link that so you can take a look. On this cruise, it was not a full transit, not a partial transit. It was to Cologne, Panama. So they call that the gateway to the Panama Canal. You can get to the canal in about, half an hour or so, but you don't get to go through the canal. We found that out months after we had booked the cruise, and then we went to look at the excursions because we really wanted to go through at least one of the locks to see them up close. Now, the old locks are the ones that people recommend. We didn't do that. We went to the Agua, Clara locks, which are the new ones. It was very interesting. However, I hate to be negative, but what a letdown. What a letdown. The whole excursion was, oh my goodness, I just was not happy with it. I'll show you why. So for any Carnival excursion, we had a meeting place, we had a specific time to get off the ship, and then meet at our bus to go with the driver. I think there were probably 4 buses in our group. There were so many people. It was a lot of people taking this excursion. I will say, Angie, who was our tour guide, was wonderful. She gave us so much information about Panama. If you do decide to do this tour and you get Angie, you're going to be very lucky. She was great.
Nice to meet you guys. My name is Angie, and I'll be your tour guide. Yay! Thank you. I was expecting for something like this. Welcome to Panama, welcome to Cologne, and welcome to my home. Today we are in the tour going to Aguas Claras. We are going to visit the new locks of the canal. Apart of this, we are going to San Lorenzo. That was one of the fortifications built by the Spanish.
So our first stop was the Agua Clara locks. When we got there, we couldn't actually get in the parking lot. It was too full. They said there were 2 cruise ships in port today. There were actually 3. It was insanity. There were so many people. There were lines everywhere. Someone almost passed out when we were going through the ticket scanner, so we had to wait until they brought her a wheelchair. There was so much going on. When we got there, we only had an hour. So we had 1 hour to walk around the locks. There was supposedly a video in the movie theater, but every half hour it was in Spanish or English. When we got there, nothing was playing, and the next video set to play was in Spanish. We didn't get to see any of the video. I don't know but I have no idea what was even on it. It wasn't even finishing up when we got there from the English version, so I don't have a clue. We didn't hang around to watch it in Spanish. We ended up walking around instead. We did get to see a ship go through the lock, and we got to see the lock close, so that was very special. They cannot guarantee that you will get to see a ship go through. So had I paid for the excursion and not even gotten to see a ship, I would have been even more discouraged about the excursion. It was very cool. We watched the lock close. So these are the new locks. They do have tugboats on the front and the back of the ship to help them navigate. The old locks are the ones that you really want to see. They have what Angie called donkeys on the side. So they're little cars that go up the sides and help the boat navigate and make sure nothing's damaged. Now, if you're curious, like we were, about the Panama Canal, how it operates, the behind-the-scenes things that go on, don't wait until you get to the visitor center to learn about it. We watched a handful of videos on Prime. I think Netflix has some. YouTube has a bunch. Very, very interesting. It was really good to know a lot of the more detailed, specific information and the history before we went to go see it. I would highly recommend doing your own research before you take a tour, because I don't know that I can learn a lot from the visitor center outside of seeing something that we had already done a bunch of research about. I wouldn't try to learn everything there. One surprise that we did have on the tour was there were 2 different locks that you could see from the visitor center. One was closer, that's the newer one. One was further away, that was an older one. So on the way to the fort, they actually stopped so that we could look through a fence and we could see another ship going through the old locks. And these are not the old locks on the other side of the canal. These are just old locks in the same area. It was really, really cool. We got to see 2 sets of locks. We didn't get to see the locks up close, but we got to see the ship going through, and it does take 3 or 4 hours to go through just a few locks because the water level has to go up and down. It's so interesting. That was really cool that they stopped. They let us see that.
You can see them. In the right hand is the old one, and in the left side is the new one.
Yeah.
The new one is, it looks like it's twice the size of the first one.
On our drive to the fort, we did get to see some animals on the side of the road. They were called coatis, and another name for them is like hognose raccoon. So they kind of have a raccoon tail. They have a little bit of a longer nose. They were so cute running along the side of the bus. It was so cool. The bus driver stopped, pulled over so that we could see the animals. I loved it.
Hi, little guys.
They are freaking cute. San Lorenzo Fortress. We picked this tour because Kyle's favorite excursion we've done was actually Tulum, where we got to see the ruins. We picked this thinking he would like this as well, and we would have a tour guide showing us around, telling us key points, things like that. So while we did have a tour guide for the beginning of it, we were let off to kind of wander around for about 45 minutes just by ourselves. There were other small groups that had different tour guides, so we kind of walked along some of those, listening to what their tour guides were saying. I thought that we would have a tour guide the majority of the time that we were at the fort. It was for 15 minutes maybe, and then we were just let off to wander and kind of learn on our own. I do better if someone is telling me information, so just reading things on the boards, I don't really absorb information the best that way. That was something that I kind of expected a little bit more out of. We're walking around a fort. I wanted to learn about the history. I did do some research on my own after we got back, which would have been better if I did research beforehand, like I always say, which I don't take my own advice, I guess. San Lorenzo, it is an outstanding example of Spanish colonial military architecture from the 16th through the 18th centuries, when the country acted as both a stopping point and a gateway for transportation of riches from South America to Europe. So it's a very important place. Do not. Okay, she was telling us about birds that make these nests that are hanging, and each male makes 3 nests, and she will decide she hates them and then knock them down. I wish that we would have had just a little bit more of a guided tour. That was the only thing missing for me in this section of the tour, was just someone presenting the information. That's what I thought we paid for. So just like some of the other tours that we've taken, I always appreciate when the person either driving or giving us the tour provides more information as we're driving around. That's exactly what Angie did for us. She was so wonderful. Here's a little bit of information about the prison that we drove past, which we thought was an abandoned building.
One of the baddest system that we have in Panama is the prison system. The people that go there inside, they don't have access to food, like not that well from part of the government. They only give them one in a day. For that reason, they let their family comes here and give them some food because the government don't pay for them.
After we got back from the tour, we did stop at the mall. There's a giant shopping mall right when you get off the ship. And we had some lunch at this Korean restaurant. My goodness, I was so happy to have food that was not on the ship, not cruise ship food. It's all been delicious, but the chicken was so good. I'll show you what all of that looked like here. It was $30, I think, for everything, which was so reasonable. We actually, when we got the portions out, we were like, oh my gosh, we ordered so much food. Let's take a look. We're at Tokyo Korean barbecue. Very cute. Okay, we got mandu, some dumplings. They look crispy and delicious. Hey, sweet and spicy chicken. We have the short ribs. My overall thoughts on the tour. If you are going all the way to the Panama Canal, go through the canal. I wish we would have done one of the tours that was a half day where you go through one of the locks into Gatun Lake and then back, because you actually get to see it working up close. What we did was fine for an introduction. I do think one day we will take a full transit cruise through the entire Panama Canal, which takes an entire day because it takes forever for the water to drain and then be replenished so that you can move on to the next set of locks. I would not take this tour again. I wouldn't even recommend someone take it. You don't need a tour to go to the Agua Clara locks. People were posting that they could have just taken a taxi. It just wasn't what I expected. I can't recommend it. Part of the reason that we chose this one was because if you look at the Carnival website, all the reviews for the other tours for Cologne, Panama, they were 10 years old, 12 years old. This one had some that were very recent. People said good things about it. Maybe they just had a better experience than we did. This was one where I felt like we wasted quite a bit of money. I think we would have had a better experience doing something else. If you have done this tour, what did you think about it? Did you have a good experience? Was it the opposite? This tour just was not for me. It could be for you, but I still can't even recommend it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Click here if you want to see how much we spent on our 2-week Panama Canal Carnival Journeys cruise. I give a full breakdown and I give a quick the good, the bad, and the gross. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any videos coming up. I have a couple more cruise ports, a couple more cruises, some Vegas content. We'll see you on the next trip.
It does.